Hello everybody. In the last tutorial I showed you how to bring an image into Oxygine, and in this one I'm going to show you how to bring in a sprite sheet, so that's more than one image, and the virtual updates. Let's get started on that. So we need a new image. I'm going to go ahead and take that from the Oxygine framework here in the examples. Hello world, data, images, this guy right here. I'm going to take this guy and I'm going to copy him into my project. Go to images and paste them. There. Now, you see here, this has multiple images in it. So it has 7 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when we bring it in inside of our resource folder right here, come on, all right there. Okay, when we bring it in, let's create a tag of image file. Oops, a name.png. Now this is where that extra property comes in, calls, and we're gonna say 7 because it has 7 columns. If you ever bring in a sprite sheet that has more than 7 columns, then you would tell it. So that should be good enough for that. Another thing that I'm going to show you is not to put in the resources inside of a class. The reason for that is because every time that this is created, it will create the resources. Not very efficient. So I'm going to show you a more efficient way on how to do this. So let's go ahead and create a resource file. Create a header, point to the source. I'm going to call this, can't call it resource because Oxygine already has that as a class. Let's call this image. I don't know what to name this. Let's name this image resource. Sure, let's name it that. Okay, so we bring in Oxygine. Let's say Oxygine framework using the namespace Oxygine. Okay, now we create our own namespace here, and we gotta give it a name. So I'm gonna call it, just call it res. Okay, now in here we're gonna have an extern resources. There it is. I'm just gonna call this resources. Okay, now we're gonna create a 2 functions. One is to load, and the other one is to free. There. Save that. Let's create a CPP of this. Let's go in CPP. Image resource. Add that. Include our header. Image resource. There you go. Now name space res resources. I called it resources. Now our functions, which is void load. Now in here, whoops. Okay. Now in here, we're gonna call our XML file. So we're gonna say resources dot load XML, and it is res dot XML. There you go. Now we have to make our other function and free this. Resources dot free. There you go. Now we're gonna go into main dot cpp. Yeah, this is the character we're gonna create. I'm gonna leave that there. Okay. So before any other classes get made, we're gonna go ahead and load our resources. So we gotta include that. Include image res. Okay. Now in here, we're going to say resources. No. Res load. So we're going to load that up. Load resources. There you go. Create classes. There. And add to stage. There. Let's go ahead and save that. I'm going to go ahead and comment these out for now. I'm going to be using that. Okay. So now we need to change that inside of our play button so that it grabs it from in here, from this new namespace that we made. And we need to also free this resource that we loaded in. Since it's not inside of this class, it needs to be freed. So once the user ends up closing the window, Oxygine, when it gets to this function inside of its entry point right here, this file, it gets to this part. We want this to free right there. That way, there's no images inside of in memory, because that wouldn't be good. That would be memory allocated, and it needs to be freed. So now let's go ahead into our play button here. Where play button right there. Now let's take this away. CPP. Now what we're gonna do is take that out, and in here, what we're gonna do is the res namespace. Oh, forgot. You need to include it first. So image res. There you go. I'll call that variable and say get res a name. There you go. And it was play. Save that. And this class just became even simpler. Just like that. So that way, when this class is created, this is already instanced in memory. So it doesn't need to be taking more, instancing more. Well, let me see how to explain this. It doesn't instance over and over again in the memory, and it's not that efficient. So this is more efficient that way. That way it's already in memory. All you do is just grab it from our namespace here. So let's go ahead and play that. Let me make sure that. Okay. Let's go ahead and build that. There you go. There. See? Still works. Look at the tree. It's in there. Okay. Now, let's bring in our sprite sheet, which I'll call it this right here, character. So let me go ahead and comment that. That way I don't forget. Now, let's go ahead and create these classes. New header. Call it character.h. Now, include Oxygine. Using the namespace of Oxygine. Create the class. Public sprite again. Now, make our public and our private. Okay. Constructors, character, deconstructor, character. There you go. Okay, now we're gonna add an extra function method into this class, and it's gonna be a virtual update. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say void do update, and inside of that, in one of the parameters, we're gonna have a constant update state. Now that we have that, I think that's all we need. Nope, we need something else. Since we're gonna be animating this because it has more than it has 7 columns in it instead of being a singular image, we're gonna need a variable here. It's gonna be a resanim, and I'm gonna call it animation. Okay. Now we're gonna use this animation to go through all the columns of our spreadsheet. So let's go ahead and create a CPP of this class. Character, there you go. Include it in. Our constructor, our deconstructor, and our virtual method. constant update state. There you go. Now, save that. Now I'm going to add the image into this class first. So set res anim. And I am going to add the namespace of it, of the resource. Now, call the namespace variable and get the res anim and and get anim, which was the name of the image. That should have our image show up. Let's give it a position of half the screen. So go ahead and say set position. And this is going to need a vector 2. So let's go ahead and give it a vector 2. Let's get the stage and get its size in the X direction. And let's go ahead and divide that by 2. Let's do the exact same thing for the Y. Go ahead and take that out. There you go. So now it is halfway in the screen. That's the position we gave it. So now it should work. Yeah. Okay. Let me make sure. Yep. Oh. Yep. Remember, don't forget to make this a smart pointer. So type def this Oxygine intrusive pointer. Whoa. Where'd it go? There it is. Character. SP character. There you go. There. Now we go over here. Anything. Oh, need to include it as well. All right. Character. There it is. Save that. Now let's go ahead and compile this. Ooh, we got errors. I'll reserve external. The character object. Something wrong with our do update. Let's go ahead and check that out. Oh. Yeah. There you go. Now that should go away. Yep. Now let's compile. There you go. And there he is. There's our little sprite. Now if we click on this debug button here to see what's inside of our tree, we got ourselves our button and we got ourselves a character. Let's go ahead and close that up. Now we want this right here to animate. Let's go ahead and make that animate. Let's go inside of its virtual update for this class. And we're going to need a key. We're going to need to tell it, what key is it going to be pressed to animate. So we're going to go ahead and create a constant int 8. And we're going to call this data. So using SDL, we're going to go ahead and grab our key. It was SDL get keyboard state. And just pass it null. There. Now, in an if statement, what we're going to do is data if data what goes in here? Let me see if I remember. It's SDL. Yeah, SDL underscore get scan code from key. That one sounds like it. And we're gonna say SDL key underscore. What key do we make it? I'm gonna make it F. So once that's pressed, now this is when this is where the animation variable that we created for this class comes into play. So we're gonna go ahead and say res resource. We're gonna grab it. Resource. No, wait a minute. Dot get res and name. So we're gonna pass it the same image as our class here. And now we're gonna say add a tween to this class, and we're gonna say sprite. Don't know why I didn't do that. Okay, sprite tween anim, this one right here. Put that in there. Oh, wait a minute. Neil was missing something. Animation goes in here. So it's gonna animate through that image. Now we're gonna say 500 milliseconds. And we're gonna say it's gonna loop through one time. You can make it infinite by saying -1. I just want it to loop once every time we press the F button. So we go ahead and compile this. Come on, there you go. Now, if we press the F button, which I'm gonna do right now, he animates. There you go, look at that. Skateboarding in midair. So that's pretty much how that works. How the animation and the virtual function. In the next tutorial, let me see. I guess we can have our button here do more than just look pretty there. We can have it, once we click it, we can animate this. Maybe even move it. Yeah, we'll move it. So in the next tutorial, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have this button be clicked. And when this is clicked, this will move a direction and animate at the same time. Stay tuned for that one.